Hello, I'm Sung Bae, Professor of Finance in the College of Business at Bowling Green State University. In today's webcast, I'm going to talk about how to deal with the fiscal cliff. By now, I'm sure you have heard the budget standoff that President Obama and Republicans have to reach by the end of this year. If Washington fails to reach a tax and spending deal by the deadline, several painful tax changes would kick in, triggering an automatic tax hikes of more than $500 billion that will affect nearly all Americans in some way. I'd like to talk about what the fiscal cliff is, how the fiscal cliff could cost us, and how to deal with the fiscal cliff, especially from the investment and personal finance perspectives. By name, the fiscal cliff is certainly not a good thing. The fiscal cliff refers to automatic tax increases and spending cuts if a number of different policies are allowed to expire on January 1st, 2013, unless a deal is made. So in layman's terms, it's a fiscal perfect storm. Pending tax increases due to the expiration of several tax laws and the first round of spending reductions under the Budget Control Act of 2011 are likely to result in a 3 to 4% smearing of GDP growth, according to the Congressional Budget Office estimates. The fiscal cliff was indeed a byproduct of the 2011 debt ceiling negotiations between the Democrats and Republicans in Congress to avoid a credit downgrade, which happened anyway later. I would also like to point out that the fiscal cliff we may go off on January 1st, 2013 is only part of the problem when we consider the debt ceiling will have to get raised again either in February or March of next year, and that the U.S. still faces the threat of additional credit downgrades sometime in 2013. So let's take a look at what changes the fiscal cliff would bring in. Probably the most important change would be the Bush-era tax cuts will expire. That will bring the higher cuts for ordinary income, capital gains, the dividends, and estate. So the top personal income tax rate would be 39.6% plus a new 3.8% tax to help fund the Affordable Care Act, totaling 43.4%. The lowest income tax bracket of 10% will disappear and becomes 15%. The dividends will be taxed as ordinary income, and therefore their rates will rise from the current 15% up to the highest rate of 43.4%. Finally, the capital gains will be taxed at a higher rate of 20% instead of 15%. Let's look at additional changes. Without the fix, 28 million more taxpayers will pay additional taxes under the alternative minimum tax. This AMT was a tax originally set up to catch high-income earners, but which now traps millions of middle-income earners as well. And many workers would see their first paychecks in January shrink as employers adjust for higher payroll taxes. So the increase in the payroll tax means about $40 less in their paycheck every week. Unemployment benefit will also expire, and domestic and defense spending cuts will automatically kick in. Among these changes, no matter what kind of deal in Congress is reached, the end of the payroll tax holiday and the expiration of extended unemployment benefit are the two components of the fiscal cliff that are certain to go into effect and therefore would have an immediate effect. Let's take a look at some of the tax and spending impact. First, according to the Tax Foundation, Congressional Budget Office, and the Office of Management and Budget, the total tax increases would be about $514 billion. According to the Tax Policy Center, which is a joint project of the Urban Institute and the Brookings Institution, 90% of households will face tax increases in 2013. Let's take a look at how the cliff plunge would affect the stock market. To the millions of Americans which have their investment in the stock market, the possible fiscal cliff must be of great concern. Although no one can predict precisely, one can reasonably project that even if Congress does nothing, it should not hurt the stock too badly, given the historically higher taxes have not been shown to have a negative effect on stocks. Nevertheless, there still seems to be possible losers in the stock market. First, the energy sector, because this sector stands to lose some tax breaks, and by extension, higher energy costs would then be passed to utilities. So also because utilities are relatively high dividend paying stocks, they may also be hit due to the higher dividend income taxes. Then, considering the huge cut on defense budget, defense contractor stocks may also hurt. How about the dividend paying stocks? As I told you, the dividend income tax rate will go up substantially. But there are at least three factors that suggest the fiscal tax hike will not necessarily kill the dividend stocks. First, historically, dividend paying stocks have outperformed non-dividend paying stocks even when tax rates were higher. So if you look at a historical return from late 1979 to July 2012, the dividend paying stocks had a annual return of 12.1% relative to the 10.7% of return that non-paying dividend stocks have generated. The second factor is, while the top income tax rate will rise to 43.4%, not many people will pay this highest rate. Currently, we project this tax rate will be paid by the income earners of more than $250,000 for families or $200,000 for single filers. The third factor is the half of the assets in stock mutual funds are in a tax-deferred account, such as 401k account, so that money will not be taxed until withdrawals are made, possibly many years later. So hence, dividend-paying stocks can still be appealing even if tax rates increases. In fact, if tax rates on dividend increase in 2013 and investors unload the dividend-paying stocks as a result, this could create a good buying opportunity for dividend-paying stocks. We now have already entered into the last months before the fiscal cliff deadline, but negotiations between President Obama and Republicans to save the economy are still at a stalemate. So how can we deal with it? I would suggest you to consider the following 5 strategies. Okay? First of all, start with or develop a comprehensive financial plan that coordinates your investment with your taxes and future income plans. In this strategy, first consider accelerating income and dividends that can be recognized in 2012 because they will be taxed at lower rates. And second, reposition your investment and savings that will generate future income into tax-deferred investment tools such as 401k and Roth IRA. The second, try to take profits this year and defer losses into next year. Here, evaluate the benefits of taking capital gains this year at today's low rates and defer the portfolio losses to next year. The third, assess your exposure to the new dividend tax rate, which could hit as high as 43.4%. The fourth, many retirees are able to deduct medical expenses that exceed 7.5% of their AGI this year, but they will lose deductions next year when these expenses will need to exceed a 10% AGI level. Finally, and most importantly, make sure to maintain a well-diversified investment plan, including retirement portfolios across different fund styles, such as large versus small and growth versus value funds, as well as different asset classes of stocks and bonds. Adjust the asset allocation, if necessary, to make your positions less vulnerable to a possible downturn economy. Here are my final thoughts. The immediate economic impact of the fiscal cliff would be minor, but it does not necessarily mean it would not be significant if it persisted for a full year. So millions of people will lose their jobs, and many businesses would fail. So these problems will reduce the America's competitiveness and business incentive to invest, consumers' willingness to spend it. Therefore, it will be senseless for Congress to make this happen. However, regardless of deal or no deal, keep in mind, first, to take advantage of tax-deferred plans such as 401k, Roth IRA, and 529 college savings plan. The second, continue to save and max out these plans. And third, stay with well-diversified investment portfolios. With all this, we should be able to survive and even excel the possible fiscal cliff plunge. Thank you and happy holidays.